Hello everyone and welcome yet to another brand new episode of People's Voice on iBrandTV. It is a show that offers you an opportunity to air your views on issues of paramount concern, especially as it concerns us as a people and the society at large. Once again, welcome to the show. I am Joshua Okata.
And I am Samuel Okata, and you're welcome to the show.
On the show today, our focus is on basic sex education for children or adolescent. Yes, you heard me right. What exactly is basic sex education, and how can it be administered to children, and what are the importance of such to children? All of these will be coming your way in a snap. We will be back in a moment. Please stay with us. Glad to have you back. So talking about sex and sexuality with young children, it is never too early to talk about sex with your child. Talking about sex, sexuality, and bodies from when your child is young can help your child understand that sex and sexuality are a healthy part of life. Open and honest conversation when your child is young can make later conversation easier. And these early conversations also lay the groundwork for children to make healthier choices about sex when they are older. The key early message is that your child can come to you for open, honest, and reliable information, and that your child shouldn't feel scared or embarrassed to ask you about sex and sexuality. And the good news is that talking about sex and sexuality isn't a one-off conversation that you have to have right. It is a conversation that continues and evolves as your child grows up. To be more practical, open the door to sex education by teaching your child the proper names for his or her sex organ, perhaps during bath time. If your child points to a body part, simply tell him or her what it is. This is also a good time to talk about which part of the body are private. Sam, with what we're just saying now from the background information, it's quite very amazing for us to see areas where we can make these more practical and realistic. What do you think about this?
Yes, let me first of all start by stating this adage that says a bone is easily broken when it is still young than when it has grown old. So I am here seated and subscribing to the fact that children or young minors should not be denied such conversations or basic education that has to do with sex. Because if you as a parent decides to want to deny them such conversations, maybe because you think they are too young to be given such, conversations, you might live to regret your actions or inactions. Why I'm saying this is because when you fail to do your own responsibility as a parent by giving these children the right sex education that you know they need while they are still young, the wrong set of people will definitely come in and do it for you.
Perhaps their peer group.
And again, yes, it might be their peer group. It might be people who are much older than them. But the fact is, these are wrong set of people because they do not have the right information about sex, which they are supposed to give to these children.
Or they might even not mean well for the child.
Good. And again, while doing that, these kids will grow up with such misinformation or, misinformation. And at the end, grow up to be misguided when it comes to sex-related issues. Do you get? And in the end, you'll be the one to regret it because you definitely start seeing different types of actions, being displayed by these children. And you start asking, where did they get this from? Where or how did they learn it? Because you failed to do what you're supposed to do. So it is very important, in fact, highly important for you as a parent or every parent to indoctrinate your children when it is really ripe or necessary.
All right, so I agree with you 100 as regards inculcating, basic education about sex and sex-related issues to our children, especially from a very infant age. Yeah, I agree with you. But then as you all know, it is a conversation that we also need to get, the feeds of the people on the streets, to get their perspective on the matter. So let's head to the street now to get the pulse of the people as regards this. Take a look.
I think that some of our parents, they don't know their job quite all right, because if a parent know the job, you educate your child when it comes to home. It's not most that sometimes you will leave it for teacher. Understand? I myself, I'm a father of 2 kids. I take good care of my children. I don't leave other things for school because my home is part of school.
To me, it's very, very important for us to teach our young ones sex education, because nowadays things are getting out of hand, and any children that doesn't have the knowledge of that sex education will surely misbehave.
It's very vital, unlike the olden days where parents shy away from that, thinking they will be spoiling the children, letting them know about teaching them sex education. But right now it is a very vital issue, based on the fact that what has been happening in the country right now, and in schools most especially. Parents, there is a need where parents need to sit their children down, teach them about sex, what it is all about, who to report whenever you are being molested in any way, what molestation is all about. So I think it is very important that parents should engage in that.
Glad to have you back. You've heard the various views of the people on the street giving us a perspective about the topic on basic sex education on children. What is your view about this? Well, while we hope to get your view by joining us on all our social media handles at iBrandTV, we will be having a guest joining us right now via a virtual platform to give us their various perspective on the subject matter we're discussing about. So right about now, I have joining us via Zoom in the person of Miss Omolola Adefuyi and Mr. Balogun Taiwo. You're both welcome to the show. All right, so my first question will be directed to Mr. Taiwo. What's your view or what's your understanding about the word basic sex education on children or adolescent?
Good question. Sex education is, first of all, designed to help the youth or the young people to gain the required information, the required skills and motivation to make healthy decisions about sex throughout their lifetime. And it's something that I think most of the times we don't talk about it.
All right. While we're trying to get his perspective on the subject matter regarding sex education, well, I didn't make you understand he's also a life coach, and he will be giving us his perspective on the matter when we get him connected. Let me ask Mrs. Omolola Adefuyi, because she is a sex therapist, so we'll be getting so much of analysis on the subject matter. My question to you would be, at what age, so to speak, can a parent start inculcating basic sex education on their children? At what age?
Coincidentally, I was discussing this with some people on Sunday. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly well.
This same question, at what age? And I discovered that a lot of parents have different view concerning this. But as far as I have been exposed to, I would say from the age of 1, you should start exposing your child to sex education. There are different stages, there are different exposure for different age. So from 1 year old, a child should start being exposed to basic sex education.
But one would ask, is that not too early at 1?
Okay, like I said earlier, there are different stages of sex education. Now, when you say too early, maybe you are thinking of what the information you want to expose the child to. At 1 year old, the information you should make the child know is not what the child is too young to know, or basic parts that are secured. Or this is, let the child, we have a culture where people call things by name that they are not originally called. You hear parents calling the breast, the penis, different name. You hear boo-boo, you hear pee-pee, as in you hear names that a child does not. So when you tell a child this is a breast, the child is not relating breast to the other name that it's being called. So at 1 year old, a child should know a breast as a breast, a penis as a penis, a vagina as a vagina, the name by which they are being called. Basic sex education.
All right, so let me get back to my other guest. I hope he's there, Mr. Taiwo. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right, we lost contact with you when you were about giving us your perspective about what basic sex education is. Can you give us your feed on that, please?
Yes, like I said earlier, that it's something that is designed to help the young people to gain the required information, required skills, and motivation at the early stage to make healthy decisions about sex throughout their lifetime. It is something that we should expose our children to as early as possible. Like,
are you there, Mr. Taiwo? All right. I think he was trying to say something.
The other guest said, like she mentioned that, I mean, stages of life, at different stages of life. So I think it is something that we should expose our children to as early as possible. And because it will help them to make healthy decisions about sex or about their sexual life at the early stage.
Okay. Mrs. Omolola, let's come back to you now. You earlier on made it clear to us that a minor or a child should be exposed to sex education at age 1, and you made some reasons, why such a child should start, getting that education at that age. But I would like to still ask you, what exactly should an adolescent get to know about sex?
Okay.
Are you there? Oh, I think we lost you again, but then we'll come back right at you once the network established that connection.
All right, so Mr. Taiwo, are you there? I was trying to get his perspective as regards what he said earlier on, because he made mention of the fact that, basic child education is, a kind of education that is designed to help, children on how to make the right decisions. And I was trying to get his perspective as regards what specifically are those certain decisions that kids or children could make as they grow up. I hope he will be, right there for us to be able to get his perspective on that. Mr. Taiwo, are you there? Are you there, Mr. Taiwo? Okay, let me switch over to Miss Omolola. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
All right. Now let me switch over to you so that you could ask. I think she was. So that you could answer the question that I wanted to pose to Mr. Taiwo earlier before we lost him. I was trying to get the perspective of Mr. Taiwo when he said basic sex education is designed to help children make well-informed decisions as they grow up. What are certain decisions that children could make that such decision could help them with?
Okay, now a child needs to know what parts of their body are out of bounds to every other person. Okay. A child needs to know what part of their body is private, what part of the body is public. A child needs to understand why it's private and why the other parts are general. A child needs to understand how a certain touch can be wrong and how a certain touch is not wrong. A child is like a virgin land. It is the things that you've implanted in the child that the child, what's the word now, that the child practices or that the child lives with. Now, if you had not put a child through all this basic training, a child is left to wade through the confusion by his or herself. So sometimes the child is not sure about, oh, is this touch wrong or right? The child doesn't know. And so most time, because the child doesn't know, because he or she has not undergone the basic sex education, he or she commits a lot of mistakes, start learning by practice. And sometimes some of them don't live to tell the story. So this is the essence of this basic education. So you are informed ahead before you even experience it, that this is when you should shout. This is when you should run. This is when someone is spelling danger, even when this person is smiling. This is the essence of this basic education.
All right. Thank you for that thought of yours. But then you were in the process of saying something before the network, disconnected you. Exactly. Could you just give us your perspective on that very quickly?
Now, for every age, there are different exposure. So a child between the age of 1 to 3 should be exposed to the basic body parts. These are your body parts. These are the function. When a child is beginning to move from 3 to, even from that 3, from age 3, a child should be made to know the private and the public. I remember as young as my son was, as at age, before 3, I already told him, your penis is a private part. No other person is allowed to touch it except you. And he went to the daycare one day and somebody wanted to wash his buttocks and touched his penis by mistake. He came home to tell me, because the rule is, if anybody touches it, bite the person and tell me. If you ask them, they know. Bite the person and tell me. So
Hello, are you still there?
Yeah, I think
right,
I really appreciate that point she made, especially with regards to how kids should. Oh, she's back. All right,
are you there?
Okay, I'm here.
All right, okay, go ahead.
Okay, I would want to know where you, because I didn't know where I cut off. So where did you?
Yeah, you actually were giving us your own perspective as regards how a child should respond, especially a boy child, when he's been touched, on the penis.
Oh, okay. So I think you already heard where I started sharing the story of my son, where I told him, okay, and he came home and told me someone touched. If I had not told him earlier that the rule is this is your private part, anybody who touches it, you bite the person, and you come home to tell me, he would probably have ignored that simile. It was innocent, it was a mistake. But because he already had the knowledge, that's where we're talking about the basic sex education. You already had the knowledge. This is my own thing. Nobody else is permitted to touch it. He reported as young as he was less than 3 then. So you should understand that these children, even at that age, they know, they understand what you have told them. So you could make the mistake of not telling them and they fall into error at that age. So from the ages of 3 to 5, 3 to 6, yes, a child should begin to know, aside the basic private part, a child should begin to know that you not only should you not be touched, you also should not touch somebody else's private parts. It is wrong. A child should be able to know from the young age. Kissing is also one thing I found that is rampant. Thank God, I think education is making reduce. Nobody should kiss you on the lips, and you shouldn't kiss anybody on the lips. All these things are the basic thing for now. When a child is getting to the age of 7, a parent should begin to introduce sex, as in sex, what sex is basically for the child. I've had people say 7 is young. Children are quite exposed early these days. And what they know, parents don't even know they know. So it is now left for parents to teach what they want the child to know before the outside world teach what they want the child, teach that child what they want the child to know. So from the age of 7, a child should be exposed to basic sex, and it should not be if you near a boy, you will get pregnant. That has become outdated and it's no longer work. So it should be the real thing.
All right. Thank you for that explanations you just gave to us. But I will still need to, boil down a little bit on that same education you talked about concerning, minors from age 1 to age 3. Now you gave us, your analysis about your own child of age 3. What about children or little minors, who might not be able to assimilate this education, basic education you're talking about? In that scenario, what do you think a parent should do? Because as our faces are different, so are the assimilations of these minors are. So in that scenario, what do you think a parent should do in the event that that child is not responding to that basic education?
repetition. It should be repeated over and over and over. A child learns by repetition. You keep repeating until the child understands. You keep making practical example and you keep correcting. You know, I've had, despite that I've taught my children from age 0, since they are young, I don't call things by the names they are not. So I tell them, sometimes they go outside and somebody else is calling these things a different name. And they come home and so I tell them, I correct them, I say, no, what did I tell you the name is? This is the name, not whatever name is being coined or being plain. You know, because people feel these are children, so you don't call this name. No, it affects the child because you have told the child, nobody should touch your, I don't know so many of those names, but I hear them a lot. Nobody should touch your, I'm looking for one word, maybe your boo-boo or something. The person that is touching is telling you, I'm not touching your boo-boo, I'm touching your penis. It's not the same for the child, it's two different names. So you keep repeating until it's thinking. That's just the basic thing you can do as a parent for a child that is not picking it fast.
All right, now that point has been established. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Taiwo, but let me quickly wrap up on this issue with Ms. Omolola. Now, you talked about a boy child. How about someone who has a girl child? Are they left out in this? How can they be taught, especially on how to react?
The girl child should be more focused on, you know, both needs focus, because I discovered that even boys get more abused at young age than girls.
Oh, really?
But yes, a lot of boys get more abused by the older women, and it's silent in our society. So, but the girl child, the problem with the abuse of the girl child is that both has almost equal damage. So don't let me say the girl child has much damage. But if you have a girl child, this is not about whether it's a girl or a boy. Whatever child, I'm only giving an example of a boy because mine is a boy. But for the girl child or the boy child, you have to focus. And the girl child, the extra precaution is that you don't dress up your child with just the pants if you have a girl child. If you're dressing up your child, you're wearing the pants, you're wearing the leggings, the pop socks, before you're wearing the child's clothes. So that even when the child is going to sit outside, you know, you see a lot of girl child, they just sit carelessly because they're young, they just sit. It's wrong, because as young as they are, 1 to 3 year olds sitting carelessly, some men can be moved by that. Yeah, it's that bad. So aside training your child to sit and close her laps, you need to also take the extra precaution of wearing her a pants, a pop socks, before she wears her clothes. And then you start to train her, aside from training on her private part, start to train her how to sit properly as a lady, start to train her how not to expose her body, whether when she's playing.
Okay. All right. Now, as a sex therapist, would you say it is right for a mother to have her bath with a 3-year-old boy child together in the same bathroom?
It is absolutely wrong. Even before the boy is 3, he can identify he is not supposed to be where they.
Okay, let's swing over now to Mr. Taiwo. Mr. Taiwo, are you there?
Yes, I'm with you.
All right. Now, my next question to you would be, what are the factors sometimes that makes parents shy away from inculcating this education or training to their wards?
Yeah, I think the number one factor is, our environment.
Go ahead. Wow, we lost him. I think he was trying to mention some of the factors, and yes, when you say environment is really one of those.
I'm with you. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Yes, I said our environment, and then the number 2 is our culture. Most of us, we were not taught this education at the early stage of while we are growing up. So a lot of parents think that it is not part of their culture, and why would they expose their children to basic sex education at the early stage? So our community, our culture, then the other factor is that so many of the parents think that, after all, he or she will knows about sex education when he or she gets to a certain stage in life. There are so many things they did not teach us in school. They didn't teach us, like, for example, they didn't teach you how to make money while you are growing up, both at home and in school. Same is happening to sex education. Nobody will teach you how to approach a girl or how to toast a girl, how to not what to say. You know, these are part of the content that I used to tell even our religious leaders that it is not being taught in the religious settings. A lot of these things wants to know how to toast a babe or a girl, and a lot of the girls want to know what to say, how to respond, you know, how to say no, how to say yes. You know, all these things are not taught in school. They are not taught in churches or in mosque. They are not taught even by parents. So it is something that we need more awareness in our community. It is something that we need more awareness as at large. So you see, when we don't know something that you don't know can crush you.
Now I was
okay.
We can wrap up.
So a lot of the parents need to be educated for them to educate their children. That's just the basic.
All right, now let me get your reaction to this, because that was what I was trying to get from Miss Omolola before we lost her. We see this happening in our society where most mothers birth their boy child maybe about 3 or 4 years alongside with them in the same bathroom. What's your reaction to that quickly?
It's wrong. For me, I have both male child and a female child. And even before now, we separated their rooms. The girls have their own room. The boys have their own room. And you cannot just enter the girls' room without knocking. Even if you are coming and calling one of them, they will tell you, wait, don't enter. Not to talk of now dressing up or bathing in front of your, you know, there are a lot of things that we parents do that even abuses these children that we don't know.
All right, now let's wrap up. Because we are pressed. We're pressed for time right now. What's your final words to parents out there who are ignorant of this fact, especially with regards to inculcating basic sex education to their children? In less than a minute, please.
Yes, the first thing is the parents should get educated. They should know more about sex education, basic sex education for their children, and also teach them at the early stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taiwo Balogun, for sharing your thought with us. And also, Ms. Omolola Adefuyi, a sex therapist. Thank you all for joining us on the show today. All right, that's our offering for you today. And we do believe you've enjoyed every bit of it, because we did. Stick around with us same time next week for yet another wonderful episode of the show. But if you by any means miss this week's episode, you can catch a repeat broadcast on our YouTube channel at iBrandTV. Till we come your way same time next week, I am Joshua Okata.
And I am Samuel Okata.
Bye for now.